I'm starting this one off with an apology. I remember in an older video I said the Bionicle stars sucked. Well, I mean, I still think they do, but you have to appreciate what the designers and Bionicle team did to get these to release at a time where LEGO was already done with the theme. So, I think it was wrong of me to downplay these sets and their importance of being the final send-off of the series. That being said, however, these sets are perfect for mocking, or MOVing. A MOV, MOV, stands for my own version. The Bionicle stars all pay homage to previous year's sets, so basically you can rebuild the stars as they would have looked from years past. For example, the Paraka Nektan. He's a nice little set that comes with this Antros blade and a new Paraka spine, but in lore he's supposed to be big. Like, bigger than all the Paraka from 2006. But here, compared to Vizok from 2006, Nektan is just a tiny little guy. And that was basically my reason to create a MOV of Nektan in the first place. I wanted something that would better reflect what he looked like in the story. And this is my MOV of Nektan. As you can see, he's much bigger than his Bionicle Stars form. Although not that much bigger than the 2006 Paraka, he is a little bit bigger. I didn't want to go overboard with it. One problem I ran into when building this MOC was his short spine, which, paired with his size, looks kind of small on him. So, what I did was I pushed the spikes up here on the top and put this Nuva chestplate on the bottom. I wanted to go really for like an armored look because he was going into battle with all the other Paraka and Rakshi, so I felt like having a suit of armor would make sense, and he'd probably want to protect as much of him as he can. I don't know like the significance of Paraka spines, but I feel like it's like a mane of hair or something, and they want to like, you know, they don't want to like lose that. Like they just get like cut off like the line in Narnia. As you can see, there's also like a lot of CCBS shells going on here, and the reason why I did that was mostly because it just adds like a nice clean look to him. I know he's a Bionicle, so like they don't really have like a clean look most of the sets, but as you can see here, these CCBS shells in the middle make like this nice chest looking thing. One technique I used for this actually was using a bar piece and this Technic ball with a toe ball and axle attached at the end. And when you notice that there's a bar hole here, you're like, alright, that makes sense. But without this Technic toe ball and Technic ball, it kind of moves around. So this groove here, actually, it can fit the toe ball piece very nicely. Let's see if I can get that in there. Yep. And it will keep this in place. This will not wiggle around anymore. I mean, if you put like a significant amount of force, it probably will move, but it doesn't move. And everything sits very nicely, all unison of each other. I wanted to go for this gunmetal color because just like the other Paraka, that is a color that they can come in. And since Vizok is already blue with some silver, I felt like it would be a good color to kind of distinguish the two Paraka. Now, if you look at his body, there are like spikes everywhere because I tried to add even more spikes. I don't know if these come in dark blue actually, but if they do, that'd be cool. I put some on his arms up here, and yeah, just a lot of them. I put some like on his like skull because there's two axles on each side, two axle ports. Another thing is I used these hexagon shield pieces to just cover up some of the gaps in his armor because that kind of bothers me. And yeah, everything fits very nicely. I put some also in the back right here on his lower leg parts. Speaking of which, his lower legs, as you can tell, there's a Rakshi lower joint piece and there's a Paraka melee lower arm piece here. And I did that because I wanted to like just bulk up his like lower half of his body a little bit and put some armor, make it look a little nice because I feel like he's like a chunky guy. Yeah, and I used these Breakout Hero Factory armor shell pieces just to cover up some more of those ball joints, and also on top of that bulk him up a little bit and add more armor because I like to have like gunmetal Whoa, excuse me. I like to have gunmetal basically everywhere on him. His feet are just normal Paraka feet. I didn't really care for the Shadow Matoran feet really that much, so I decided to change it to just normal Paraka feet. And I tried to keep his blade the same. It scales better with him now. Like it's basically like the same size as like his upper half of his body. And I tried to keep the crescent look going because it's called a crescent blade. So like I tried, like a backwards C, I guess. So like, I mean, it kind of works here, I guess, but there's probably better pieces I could have used. This was my second attempt at a Bionicle Stars revamp, actually. Not particularly my favorite, though. I think there are stuff I can improve on, but on to the next one, which I'm actually a really big fan of. Here we have Gresh. As you may know, he was released in 2009 and then again in 2010. The reason why he changed appearance in 2010 was because in the story, he found new armor and tools that he wanted to use in the desert. And I believe the reason why they re-released him was because, Glatorian, even though it was still fresh in our minds. And I'm pretty sure at the time the set was still being made, so it's kind of confusing why they did it in the first place. But here he is. Me personally, I like this form of Gresh. I think the dark green and lime looks really nice. And he's pretty simple. This was basically how I got Gresh as a kid because I never got the bigger form. I only had this form and I really liked it. But now as I got older, I now do have Gresh. And even now that I have Gresh, I can kind of see there's some flaws in that bigger form of Gresh. Like some things that I wanted to change, and I did change actually when I made my MOV of Gresh. And the reason why I made this MOV was I wanted to combine 2009's Gresh, his size, and 2010's Gresh color scheme and tools to make basically what I feel like Gresh would look like right now. Out of all the MOVs in this video, he's my favorite in particular because how well the Stars armors looks, honestly. It's a perfect size, it fits the small and Nika build well. That's another thing I wanted to do actually. I wanted to keep him small. So he's a little bit bigger than his Bionicle Stars form, actually a lot bigger than his Bionicle Stars form. But he's still smaller than his 2009 form. And the reason why I wanted to keep him a bit smaller was because in the story, Gresh is, a young guy. And I feel like because he's young, he has a lot of growing to do, both mentally and physically. So he scales a little bit better with the Glatorian legends, like Akar, for example. Another thing I wanted to do was add more bits of lime armor to him. And I did that by putting the CCBS shells on his arms and these dark green ones, which before this MOC, I didn't know they actually came in dark green, so that was really cool. He has this one also situated in his chest to kind of act as like a lower armor piece, or maybe just like his flesh, because they are, organic, and everything kind of bundles very nicely, like the way the slicer feet, this Technic, I don't know what they're called, connector that's angled, I guess. Because one of the problems that the 2009 form of Gresh had was that he was very his chest is basically jutting out of him. He's very gappy in the middle. As you can see, you can kind of see the background behind. You see? Yeah, it's not very good. But I feel like I fixed that here by basically filling that in as much as I can. And that piece I just fell off just now was a system piece. Which is, before this MOC, I didn't really use system pieces in my MOCs that much. But now I'm kind of warming up to it a little bit more these days. And trying to use them in MOCs just to kind of fill out things. Yeah, but also, as you may have noticed, I used the original Bionicle Stars armor for this because it scales beautifully with it. I used it for his lower leg armor, and I used it for his shoulder armor like he has in his 2009 form. I was about to say 2008 again. So yeah, that I kept that shoulder armor because I felt that was very iconic to him. And I put these handle, these Nika hand or Exoforce hand pieces here to cover up a little bit of that because, as you can see, there is like that hole there. And because I can put that there and it covers it up, and it also gives him more depth, I feel. I also added these dragon wing pieces here, and they slip right in there. And that's just to give him a little bit more of a spiky look to him. Another thing is I kept his original Thornax blog. Wow. I kept his original Thornax launcher here. It still fires even with the system 2005 staff piece from the Bionicle sets, and it still fires pretty well. So yeah, I wanted to keep Gresh as original to 2009 as I can, but I wanted to also at the same time introduce his new armor that he got in 2010 because I like it. I think it's good. Really happy that this new chest plate comes in line, by the way. I also kept his original life counter. I think the only weak part of this MOV and that I feel is weak, I don't know, maybe you guys do feel differently, is this Paraka armor here. I just added that at the end because I was like, what do I use to like fill that out a little bit? But yeah, I'd probably replace it with an Anika armor piece or something else, like a little bit smaller. Overall, I think I really cooked with this one. Ugh, sorry. You know, you might hate me for saying this, but the Rakshi in particular are not really my favorite Bionicle canister sets. I would say I even like the Vaki more than them. The Rakshi, honestly, even though, you know, you have to appreciate them for being like some of the first Bionicle sets to add knees. Yeah, I don't know, I'm just really not feeling them. But the Rakshi of Heat Vision is actually one that I got twice as a kid, just because back in the day, people weren't scalping Lego. I walked into a Toys R Us like in 2013 or I don't know, whenever the breakout sets came out, and guess what? They still had the Rakshi of Heat Vision, and guess what? I bought it because I was a dumb kid. Yeah, but it was the first Bionicle set that I got a clone of, and I don't know why. I feel like that's necessary to say. I just thought there was still interesting tidbit. Anywho, the Rakshi of Heat Vision is without a doubt probably the biggest downgrade from any Bionicle set ever. I mean, compared to the canister sets of 2003 that came out, sure, not a big fan of them, but you do have to appreciate what they did. I mean, of course, in the articulation, that was one thing that they gave us. Opposable waist articulation as well, which is something pretty rare in Bionicle. I think the only time we ever saw it again, of course, was with the Vaki and Maxilos, I believe, and Pridak as well. Another thing is they came with collectibles. These little slug guys that you would put in them and they would be cool. The fun fact, actually, I found one time in this Bionicle lot, I found a dead spider that a kid, I don't know if the spider crawled into the Rakshi spine or if the kid put it in there. I'm very inclined to believe a kid put in there because it was a huge spider. Like, there's no way that thing was living in there. That just happened to crawl in there because it was like closed. I don't think it could have opened and closed itself again. So it was like, ugh, that's really morbid. I wonder if there's like ever a kid out there who put like a slug in the Rakshi back. Yeah, I don't know why I keep going off these weird tangents, but anyways, the Rakshi of Heat Vision was actually one set I wanted to make a revamp of in the first place because it was the one I felt that could probably use the most amount of upgrades, and this was like 2 years ago, so that's why I'm not particularly proud of this MOC. I'm not giving him like a special like introduction or anything, but yeah, I mean, he does have leg, more articulation in his legs, just like the original, and he does have arm articulation as well. He has like elbows and things, but not a particularly big fan of this revamp. People I've talked to said they liked it, but I'm sure they were just being polite. It's not very good, honestly. One thing I did do was I made a custom torso for this. It's using an upside down Rakshi torso actually, so I was like, yeah, it's like a little bit of a callback. If you bend it, it does like twist a little bit as well, just like the original. But yeah, wasn't really going for that. Anyways, I wanted to armor him up a bit because I felt like the Roxy were like very lacking. They were very thin. But I think that's one of the appeal of the Roxy. They're supposed to be like reptilian things, and reptiles, a lot of them are very like lanky looking. Except if you have like an obese leopard gecko or something, which I've seen a lot of. Yeah, I don't know why I'm going off tangent again. Anyways, yeah, he's not really my favorite, but one thing that I did here that I'm really I thought was kind of cool, and that one I have not seen other people do, but probably have done, is I took these Ben 10 thorn pieces from the Swampfire set and I put them in like his eye slits, and because he's a Roxy of heat vision, I was like, he's like about to charge up his laser and start like using his heat vision on everybody because they could shoot it out of their eyes. But yeah, I mean, it looks really nice here, but that's basically the only part that I'm really proud of. And one thing unfortunate about it is that this one isn't symmetrical, so like it's kind of, there's more of a gap on one side than the other. But I don't know. This is a little nitpick. I've seen a lot of people actually just cut the neck part here so they can have more articulation, but I don't know. I feel like this is enough, honestly. Yeah, it does pull it, but it's rubber. It's supposed to be pulled. And that's one thing that's cool about my mock is that like you don't actually have to cut it. You can just kind of keep it as is. Though it does make him look a bit fat and chunky, but I mean that's what I was kind of going for, and I can't really complain about that. So yeah, two things I'm proud of for this mock is the custom torso, even if it's not very good. I think custom torsos are always nice to do. And using those Ben 10 thorn pieces for eyes. And that's about it, really. That's all I really care about this mock, honestly. I'm not going to revamp it. I'm not a big fan of the Roxy anyways. As sets and lore, they're cool, but in sets, not really. And yeah, these are just some of my own versions of existing Bionicle characters. Definitely consider making your own Bionicle MOCs if you want to enhance your building skills, and don't be afraid to take inspiration from other people when you build your own. Thank you guys for watching, and consider subscribing if you haven't already. I'll be coming back to the topic of MOCs again soon.